Hi, George. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Jason. Glad to be with you today. Thank you.
George, we were talking last week and something really interesting came up. You were talking about how the registry of deeds essentially has everyone's information, can really show where a person lives. It could didn't matter if it's someone who's rich or a popular, or it could be a governor, whoever it may be. That information can just be out there. Tell us a little bit of how that works.
Well, it's really a very simple system, and that's the problem. It's the simplicity. Is when you buy a property or selling a property, your name appears ordinarily on the deed, and the registry writes down your name. They write down the price. They list the mortgage if there's a mortgage, and that information is available globally to anybody who wants to log on to the registry of deeds.
Mm,
From the registry of deeds is the source where information then stems. The tax assessor picks up the information from the registry of deeds, which is another source that people check to get information about you. So essentially, what happens is once your name appears on a deed as a seller or a buyer, you're out there. And the
right,
cyber crooks,
right.
uh, everybody, your personal information gets known. Uh, and whether it could be your neighbors, it could be your colleagues at work, could be your ex-husband or ex-wife, everybody can monitor who you are and what you are and your finances from the
Now,
registry of deeds.
yeah, now George, what we're talking about, obviously, that sounds like it can be a potentially dangerous situation for a lot of people, especially with high net wealth. But otherwise, too, we're talking about a lot of different scenarios. Now, you have a program that can help people kind of avoid those issues and maintain their privacy. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. Let me give you just a little background. The idea first came to me several years ago when I was serving as trustee of client trust, because I do estate planning as well as real estate. And I walk down the street and I'd be stopped by real estate brokers who say, George, I see you bought a second unit over at the Four Seasons. You must be doing really well. Let's do some more business together. And I say, okay, this is a problem because it's not me. And they presume because I'm the trustee that it's my property because that's the norm. And the answer is no, that's not a good idea. So in thinking about it, I said, well, why don't I do this? Why don't I create a limited liability company that would
Mm,
serve as the professional trustee of trust for clients? And it's the name of the limited liability company that appears in the registry of deeds, not my name and not my client's name. And if you were to search the Secretary of State records for the name for the limited liability company, you would come up with my name, my law partner's name, but you wouldn't come up with the client's name or the real person who owns the property. And so it creates a dead stop. So as a buyer, it's great. We have athletes, we have CEOs of companies, we have people who just want to have their privacy respected, who use our services to ask us to create a trust and serve as professional trustee. If you were selling your property, the same kind of holds true. Although you can find you in the registry, everyone's looking at today's transaction, not really what happened 5 years ago.
right, right. That's a really creative solution. Now, how do they do you maintain a lot of the stuff for them, or are they still kind of paying their own taxes, getting their own mail? How does that portion work?
Well, what we wind up doing is the tax bill is an issue, but it's easily solved because if we change the address, the mailing address for the trust to the property address, they get it. They'll just get their tax bills. And also we can provide them with if it's Boston, we provide them a link online to go and check it themselves.
I
So,
see.
and also we provide a yearly service where we continue there. The amount of mail we receive right after a transaction is enormous. You have no idea, 20 letters, 30 letters, solicitations. Everybody wants to know, wants you to be their best friend. So we still receive mail for them and we will forward it on to them, call them, let them know that they've got something, anything of importance, certainly. We throw out the usual flyers, but it's a continuing service. They're not just left alone when they sign up with us.
Now, George, tell me more about your real estate and estate planning business. What types of cases are you looking for? When should be people be calling you? What are the most of those things you're working on right now?
Well, we are primarily a real estate law firm. We're small, small niche firm, representing buyers and sellers of homes and condos throughout the state, whether it's in Boston, in Hingham, Wellesley. We have a satellite office in Lexington, a second office there. So throughout the state, we take care of people people who are buying or selling their homes or condos. And the service you provide through serving as trustee at the limited liability company, which is called Nominee Trust Services Trustee, right now only does it if it's your principal residence. There's too much risk involved in doing that if you're an investor buying a big apartment building or have tenants. So if you're buying or selling a home, we're happy to help you in the purchase as your real estate attorney or the sale. And if you're interested, we will provide the service of keeping your name out of the registry of deeds and in the internet and in the public information zone. And since we also provide estate planning services to our client with wills and trusts, we look at things a little differently. You know, it's not just a real estate transaction. It's not just doing a will. It's what do you have for real estate? How would you like to handle it? Have you done any thought process that you have? Perhaps you can avoid owning property that would ordinarily go into probate should you should you die, or more importantly, if you're older and you become incompetent, you get Alzheimer's, and now title's still in your name, but you created a mess because how do you sign a deed? You've got Alzheimer's. So there are a lot of nuances to go along with those. So once we look at someone's picture, we give them a recommendations, and usually it's a vanilla kind of recommendation. But very often we'll say, we want to make you aware of something and you might not have been aware of. What would you like to do? It's your choice, how you might want to handle something. So it's kind of an interesting blend. We also solve a lot of title problems that deal with estate planning.
Right.
Oh my gosh, the problems you can't imagine that come up with that. So we have a good niche. It's a very specialized niche, and we really enjoy protecting people's privacy when they're buying or selling a home or condo.
Yeah, I mean, that's so right, George. I mean, most of the people that I speak with that need estate planning, their largest assets usually property, and usually that's their primary home. And they might have a secondary home, but that's the biggest headache they have, especially kind of once, when the kids are younger, they're probably looking at some guardianship type of stuff. But as the kids get older, I mean, the house is the, I guess they would call it the last headache, or a good headache, a good problem to have. But it needs to be treated properly, because if it isn't, it can get held up in probate for a long time. And can you tell us now, like, say if someone kind of dies without a good estate plan, right? How long can a piece of real estate kind of be stuck in probate?
I know it sounds kind of strange to say this, but it depends what county you live in.
Oh, interesting.
If you're in Martha's Vineyard, probate process is pretty fast. If you're in Middlesex County, I couldn't even give you an estimate when things would be done. It's a huge volume going on there. And I mean, I remember when, at the time I used to go to the probate court, and I would sit there. See, the courts function on you'll probably be certainly aware of this, a hurry up and wait system. You got to hurry up and be there, then sit there and wait and wait and wait. So I remember I was in probate court for 3 hours waiting for a simple thing that a client of mine had made a slight mistake, and they had listed on their will that someone else had done, but the family dog was going to go to their daughter who was 12 or 13 years old.
Right.
Well, that's a dog is property, and any property that's being inherited by a minor requires a guardian ad litem be appointed, or a guardian ad litem to look after, preserve the asset, make sure it's not I had to go to court to have a judge issue an order saying that it's okay. You don't have to do anything special. No guardians needed to look after the fact that the dog is going to this minor child. I mean, that's the system you're dealing with, some insanity. And so a trust, just be aware that any property you put into a trust, real estate, personal property, a bank account, any kind of property at all, if it's in a trust that's properly drafted, does not go through probate to be inherited.
Nice.
If it's in a trust, it does not go, and once it's properly done, does not go through probate to be inherited. No delays, no saying, how do I pay this bill before I get authorization from a judge or a court to pay a bill in probate? No, trusts are, that's the beauty of it. And if you're in your 60s, 70s, or 80s, you really should have a trust. Not so important when you're 30 years old and don't have a lot of risk. You got to gauge your risk level and health level as well as your asset base. So
yeah, you were talking about the biggest thing too is anytime a time delay, now you're paying more taxes. It could kind of hold up your life. I mean, sometimes the children aren't really living here and they're just kind of in town to take care of some stuff. Maybe they need to sell the house to get to the funds for whatever reason. And that additional time in probate can really kind of mess things up. While
Oh,
trust, you
and
can just take care of it right away, like we're saying.
yeah, and the procedure that I'll give you an example. If Jason, if you put your home into a basic estate planning trust,
Right.
and you fell ill, and there'd be a successor named to take over if you fell ill. Whoever you name, that person could sign a deed, and it's sold and done. If it's just you and there's a will, well, let's see, to sell the property, I got to file a probate, file the will. I may have to see a judge. I might not have to see a judge. What authority do I need? There's process.
Yep.
And the problem is you don't want process at a time that you want simplicity.
Got it.
That's what it's about.
Makes a ton of sense. So, George, towards the end of our interview, one of the tougher questions we're going to ask you for the day.
Uh-oh.
Well,
Yes.
it's winter time right now. What's your favorite winter activity?
Oh, well, unfortunately, in the pandemic times, my favorite winter activity is watching the birds. I'm up here in New Hampshire, being a recluse, but usually I play a lot of indoor tennis.
Oh, okay. That's awesome.
And I love playing. That's the sport of my life. And I belong to a club that I meet with some people for a clinic. And it's a real social, enjoyable, fun experience. We have a lot of laughs, and it was really enjoyable. But unfortunately, with what's gone on, world is shut down a bit. So
A little bit.
I could say shoveling, but but overall, I am trying to do some interval training, get out on the road, even though it's a little icy, walk, jog, trying to stay a little bit. So that's really what my favorite wintertime activity now is.
Sounds great. Well, thanks for coming on today. Share some of your knowledge.
Well, thank you so much, Jason, for having me as a guest. I look forward to talking with you shortly again. Great. Thank you.